Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We are waiting for people to arrive, so welcome, and we hope we have a wonderful hour here together. We're going to talk about assessment and the opportunities that were created by the pandemic. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to another session of SBS Mais Educação. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Let's just wait one more minute for people to come from other rooms and join us here. My name is Lueli Ceruti, and we're going to talk about assessment and the opportunities created by the pandemic. It's wonderful to see so many people from different parts of Brazil. I can see that we have people from Minas Gerais, from Curitiba. Let me see here on the chat. Let me see here. Let me see. Where are you from? Tell me where you're from, people. São Paulo, Goiânia, Belém, Recife. Oh, I have someone from Brasilia. I'm from Brasilia, from Peru. Wow, from Rio Grande do Sul, from Porto Alegre. That's wonderful. People from all over the place. Itaparica, Parnaíba and Piauí. Wonderful, wonderful. It's wonderful to have you all here. So, shall we start? Santo Ângelo, Rio Grande do Sul, Belém do Pará, another person from Brasília, Americana, São Paulo, from Rio. I'm from Niterói, across the bridge. From Olinda, I haven't been to Olinda. One of these days I have to go there. Bragança Paulista, Vila Velha, Espírito Santo, Dourados, Mato Grosso. People say Dourados is beautiful. Botucatu, Recife, people living in Fortaleza. Trujillo in Peru. I have Ubatuba, Santa Cruz do Sul, Belém, Slovakia. My God, we have people from all over the place. It's a pleasure to have you all here, and it's a great honor to be able to talk to you. So let us start, and let me tell you a little bit about myself. Well, my name is Lueli Ceruti. I am a teacher. I've been a teacher for 27 years, and I started my life as a student of psychology, and then I ended up being someone who had, as an English teacher who had studied psychology, and that's how the story started. But anyway, I am from Casa Thomas Jefferson. Casa Thomas Jefferson is in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. We have been in Brasilia for almost 60 years, and we've had 500,000 students going through our classrooms over almost 60 years of English language teaching. We are a binational center recognized by the American Embassy for our excellence in ELT. We are an American space. And we also work with projects helping the community. We are an open space for whoever wants to visit us. So whenever you're in Brasilia, please, you're very welcome to visit any one of our units in Brasilia. We operate in Brasilia. We have 6 schools in Brasilia. We are also in Uberlândia, in Minas Gerais, and we have an operation in Goiânia, and we have over 200 teachers working with us. I am personally, besides being a teacher, I am also the manager of Thomas Bilíngue for Schools. Thomas Bilíngue for Schools is a program that offers a bilingual solution for schools. It's from a school to other schools, de escola para escola. We are new. We have been operating commercially for only 3 years, but we have now reached over 11,000 students in 30 schools in our federal district, in Goiás, Minas Gerais, São Paulo, and Rio de Janeiro. And we are very proud of the work we do. We help schools in not only the pedagogical side, but we also offer managerial and marketing help. But that's not what we're here for. We are here to talk about assessment. And we're going to start by focusing on something, by thinking about something that our dear friend Einstein said. He said that not everything counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Okay? So this is something that we should think about, isn't it? Especially in schools and as teachers who are also trying to put a number to everything. So let's reflect on it for a while. And from that, let's move on to assessment. And when you start talking about assessment, the first verb that comes to our mind is measure, isn't it? We always want to measure. And it's very funny because when I started talking to our staff about assessment, and especially our admin staff, and even to the staff in schools, the first thing they say is, we want to measure how well the students have learned and how the students are advancing in their learning of English. But assessment can be so much more than measurement, isn't it? Assessment should be able to guide us in this process, and also in adjusting the pathway, but also informing us on what we can do to make learning more effective, right? And so this is what we're going to be visiting here, okay? So first of all, let's look at the origin of the word to assess. It comes from the Latin assise, which means to assist, to sit beside. Isn't that interesting? And suddenly, this is not how we look at it, isn't it? It's so if we look at it from the teacher's point of view, this is what assessment is there for: to assist you, to sit beside you and help you in your job. And if you look at it from the student's point of view, that's what it's there for: to assist the student and to sit beside the student in his or her learning process, right? But then, what is the reality? What is it that we have to live with? What is it that we face in our day-to-day reality? We have summative assessments. It's usually at the end, in the form of a test. And this is the common reality. This is what we have, right? If you could show me in the chat, how many of you use summative assessments at the end of the learning process, at the end of the unit, or at the end of the bimester, or at the end of the semester? Okay, can you give me a show on the chat? Is this a reality for you? So Sandra is saying that yes, it's a reality for her. Fabiana is saying yes. Yes, and so it generates a number, a grade. It's a pass or fail, right? And then what do you do with that? You either celebrate or cry, right? And at the end of the story, you have remedial classes that you might have a week to try and recover what you should have done in a whole year or a whole month or in 3 or 4 months, and that what you're trying to do is teach the student the right answers, right? And so, and what is the reason? Why do we use tests? It's because we have to prepare students for life, and life is about tests, about standardized tests for external assessments, such as ENEM or the vestibular or whatever. And my question is are they the only way to prepare students for these external tests? And are they the most effective way to prepare students for these exams? And are they the only way to generate the grades? So here are the three key questions for us to think about. And then here we were, living our lives, happy, just after Carnival, and we were happy and unaware, and we were hit by COVID. And the students were in a room, and we were in another room. And we simply couldn't be there to supervise the tests. We couldn't invigilate the tests. So who is going to tell if the students were looking at the books, or if there was someone else helping them, or whatever was happening? So the tests, the multiple choice and the fill in the blanks, they were still there place, and some schools insisted on doing them. They were transformed into forms, and the students had a limited time or some time to do it, and parents were instructed on how to do it. But still, I mean, they were not what the answer. And some schools looked at it and they saw an opportunity. We did that. At the CASA, we did that. And at TBS, we also suggested that our partner schools did that. We saw an open door. We saw an opportunity. right? So we saw new possibilities because people, especially for us, that when we're dealing with a language, dealing with something that students are expected to use and for so many things, right? So can you think of new possibilities for use of language, for use of for students to show the evidence of their learning? So because when the most important argument that people use for tests is that parents need to see a result, isn't it? Parents, this is the thing. I always joke that one day I'll have a school for orphans only, right? Would you like a school for orphans with no parents? Because then you don't have to give parents the evidence that they want, the grades that they want. So what other possibilities do you have to show evidence of learning, right? And because we were online and because we had all these digital tools, and because the students were dealing with all these digital tools, we had this open door to 1,000 possibilities. For example, one of them were videos. So the students could record videos of them producing language. And you could show parents that evidence of their learning, of their performance, right? Podcasts of any subject of their interest. They could make presentations. Let me tell you a story. I have a niece that she was never one to say, yeah, today I have an English class. No, she was always one of those students who was a bit reluctant, and she was never terribly motivated. But because of the change in assessment and because of the way it was done, she changed it completely. And for her final assessment, she had to make a presentation, and she chose the topic, and she chose to talk about alternative forms of energy. And she had to talk for 3 minutes. And she thought that she would for 3 minutes. She said, okay, I can do it. And she prepared some slides, and off she went to give her presentation on her Zoom class. And instead of talking for 3 minutes, she talked for 10 minutes. And she had the time of her life. And her teacher was amazed. And her parents couldn't be happier because they had never seen her speaking English like that. Projects. This is another way to produce evidence of learning. And projects are even more fantastic because you can break them and you can have milestones. And we'll talk about milestones later on. Posters. And with the posters, you can combine a presentation of the poster. And that's a lovely evidence of learning. And students get involved in producing that. Writing pieces. And you can have it as a process so that your student can present something for you, and you can give them feedback and invite corrections, and they can work on it again so that they can improve on the writing that they produce. So it's it's a process instead of one element that they will learn nothing from. Writing songs or parodies of songs that they will have fun with. And of course, portfolios are a collection of the best work produced throughout that period of time. And these are all fantastic pieces of evidence of students learning. And they are much more real than a piece of paper with multiple choice or answer the questions or reading comprehension. And they develop other skills. They develop critical thinking. And they also help develop creativity. They also help develop collaboration. They also help develop communication. And all these elements together will make your student much more effective for responding to those standardized tests that they will have to face later on, because they are not being prepared with the correct answer, but they know how to ask the right questions and how to analyze the questions and how to create and how to invent. And the other day I was reading an article that was comparing the questions in vestibular or Enem from 10 years ago to today, and how they have changed. That 10 years ago or 15 years ago, students were asked to memorize and to have answers about specific information. And now they are asked to have critical thinking. They are asked to analyze pieces and to compare information. And this is what we're doing here. There is research showing that students who are exposed to this kind of assessment, to this kind of learning and assessment process, they are much more likely to succeed in standardized tests than those who are just prepared for the test itself. It's interesting, isn't it? Yes, my friends, some parents are like strangers to their children's education, but it is our job as educators to educate parents as well. It is part of it. It is an arduous job, but it is our job. And then you're going to ask me, but it is a process. It is not something that it's going to happen now or tomorrow. It is not something that we can expect to happen from one day to the other. Schools have trouble making this change. Although the pandemic had forced us to find new solutions and new possibilities, we might have to go back to the old ways. So it is our job as educators, as teachers, to show them that this is a way forward. And this is the new normal, as people have been talking about. This is the way forward. This is where we're going. And if we want to go forward, and then you're going to ask me, what about the grade? Parents want grades, the school wants grades, the whole educational system wants grades. Well, you can have grades here. If this is the transition that is required, we can have grades. How are we going to have grades? Well, it's very important that we go back to the basics of assessment, that we go back to validity and reliability, very basic principles in assessment, right? And we use something that is, it's not very simple, but it's very objective, something rubrics. Are you familiar with rubrics? Rubrics are very objective. First of all, because it helps students understand your expectations. So when you give the students the rubrics before you start and you say, this is how I'm going to assess your work. So you're going to produce the video. This is what I expect in your video. So the sound is going to be this, the language that you're going to use is this, and you're going to use this and this element, and 3 people are going to participate. So you give them the criteria that you're going to use. So you set the rules of the game early in the game so that everybody knows what is expected of everybody, right? So you help them understand, and it makes life easy for everybody. It makes your scoring easier and faster, because when you have your rubrics made clear, it's very easy to decide if it's a 5 or a 7. You see, because what's the difference when you look at a composition? What's the difference between a 7 and a 9? What's the difference between an 8 and a 9? So using rubrics, that difference is very clear. And it's clear for everybody, because it makes the rubric, the scoring more accurate, unbiased, and consistent, right? And it helps improve feedback to students, because someone says that feedback gets code very fast. So the faster you give feedback, the better it is, because then students can act upon it. If you have the rubrics, you can give feedback very fast, and they can act upon it very fast, right? So you improve the feedback to your students, the students can respond to it, and they can improve their own work, right? And also, it creates the much desired number, people. It creates the grade. I'm sharing here with you a wonderful website. It's called The Grade Network. So if you want to use this QR code with your cell phone, so that you can record this website. I wrote the website underneath it so that you can take note of it. The Grade Network, they give you great tips on how to use rubrics. And you can use rubrics for everything, people. You can use rubrics for a project. You can use rubrics for a video. You can use rubrics for a poster. And you can, and it's fast, and it's effective, and it's unbiased. You see, it's clear, and you set the rules of the game very early on the game, so it's clear. Okay. Can I move on? Have you taken care of the QR code? Have you written down? Can I move on? This is very useful, people. So take note of it and use it. This is, rubrics are always, and once you have them, you can just make a few adaptations or use the same one for all the videos, or make just a few adaptations. For example, if you want them to use specific language, or if you want them to use specific different kinds of web tools. So you can, the name of the site is the Grade Network, but it's grade with GRAIDE. The Grade. Can you read it? It's written down on underneath the QR code. The Grade Network. Okay. Grade with GRAIDE. There is an I. Grade, GRAID. The Grade Network. Okay. GRAID. Okay. Moving on. When I talked about presenting the students with the rubrics at the beginning, it's because you allow them to see the end of the journey right at the beginning. And this is something, I'm going to ask you to excuse myself to use a couple of slides used by my dear friend Maria Teresa Aranda, and give her credit for it, to talk about the journey. When you're assessing, it's very important that you establish very clear goals and that you share the goals with the students. And the rubrics, for example, is one of the ways in which you can share the goals with your students. So this is what I expect of you, and this is where we're going, right? Because when you're traveling, you choose where you're going and how you're going and whether you're stopping and the clothes you're going to take with you, and how much luggage and the kind of clothes you're wearing and how much money you take. So these are things that you have to make decisions on, and this is the kind of thing that we have to think about when we are assessing and when we embark on a learning journey, right? So we decide where we're going and what are the goals, and this is the feed up, right? So I know where I'm going and I know what I want to do, where I want to get, and this helps me make all the decisions to get there, right? And then I have to get constant feedback on how I'm going and how I'm doing on this journey, right? And this is feedback. And I have to see, for example, when you're traveling, you have to know, is this hotel good? Should I change? Am I late? Should I move faster? Should I go back because I didn't have time to see that museum? So these are elements that we have to adjust, right? And also, what are my next steps? What should I do to keep moving? So I have to keep forward. So these are elements that I have to keep wondering. These are elements that I would like you to consider when in this idea that of this door that was open, because another element that is very important and that was allowed to us during the pandemic was the concept of formative assessment, which is assessment for learning. We're not saying that we're going to completely abandon the idea of summative assessment. Summative assessment is very welcome if it is part of a whole. But when it is the only thing that we use, it is very sad, because if it's only done at the end of the process, you can only either cry or celebrate, and that's the only thing you can do. Formative assessment, on the other hand, has three very basic characteristics. First of all, it is inclusive, okay? It is inclusive because it does not exclude or discard anyone, but it differentiates and it individualizes. It invites self-assessment, and it's success-oriented. And it's not because it's success-oriented that it is easy. No, because it invites students and teachers to question, to adjust, to improve, using different instruments, which can be and will probably be closer to their own reality, to their own interest, and therefore will be much more motivating and be much more engaged in this whole process, in their own learning. And what else would you like to have, right? And another element is that it is diagnostic. It informs students and teachers about the learning goals before the journey and during the process. It allows us to locate deficiencies and to seek reformulations and to ensure that we are on the right path, and maybe change the path if necessary, and make adjustments. When I say that it's success-oriented, it is important that we understand that we are business of educating. We are not in the business of failing or passing students. And this is something that is very important that we internalize and that we communicate to schools and parents. And we are in the middle of the process as teachers, okay? Formative assessment is also very dynamic because it's very much like learning. It is constantly changing and it's never ending. It is cyclical and it's multi-directional. What we knew 10 minutes ago, it has already changed. We are always building, we are always constructing new knowledge, we are always acquiring new abilities, all right? And it goes into many directions. In the classroom, it will go from the teacher to the student, from the student to the teacher, but also it will travel from students to student. Students will learn from each other and will assess each other and will collaborate. Just a second, because I'm having an issue here with my computer. I have no idea why. I think I have sorted it out. Okay, now we're okay. Scare moment, but we are okay. We have survived. Okay. Slide is clear now. Yes, yes, everybody. Are you okay? People. It is very important. I think this is. I'm going to have. I'm going to stop sharing in a moment, and we're going to allow questions and a little bit of discussion in a moment. But it's something that I don't think I can stress enough. But is that assessment is intimately and forever connected to learning goals, to very clear learning goals, and that they are pre-established, and that when we do that, we also establish the standards of what's going to be achieved. And we have the classic that by the end of the period of the semester of the units, students will be able to perform something. And this has to be very, and it has to be observable, and it has to be clear to everyone, okay? And the problem is that assessment and even the learning sometimes has been taken from the student and taken care of by the institutions and the teachers and the system itself. We have to give it back to the learner, because they are at the center of this process. They are the ones expected to do the learning. And the same goes to assessment. Students must be able to articulate what and how they are being assessed on, and the value of the skills and competencies they are paying, and of the assessment itself. The moment we give it back to them and we involve them in this process, they embrace it with such passion and with such responsibility that they are bound to succeed. And it's wonderful to see learning taking place in that scenario. And at this moment, we have only 10 minutes left. I'm going to thank you for being here, and I'm going to open for questions and comments so that we can, I can hear from you, and we can have some communication. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see you. Let me see here. So, my friends, I am here now listening to you. And is there anything I can answer, I can help you with? I'm here open to you. Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you, Tatiana. It was a pleasure to have you here. Lucas is asking, how he could create the same kind of evidence with adults. Lucas, adults come to us with a number of preconceptions about learning. So first of all, it is important that we make the learning and assessment process even clearer to them. And again, sharing rubrics is always very important. Make it clear what your criteria is, and share with them what you're going to expect of them. Adults love, for example, presentations are something that adults love. And give them the option. For example, you can either present live or you can the video. I've had the opportunity to use that with adults. Some of my students chose to present live. Some of my students chose to record a video because they were not, let's say extroverted enough, but they like that. But it's very important that you make them aware of the criteria. The rubrics are always very important. Students tend to be shy and willing not to participate in projects that they are exposed and have to present. Do you have any tips? So first of all, Flasdea, it's important to prepare them for this. This is a training moment. It's a learning project that you will have to develop with them. So have them work in small groups and have them present small bits from time to time so that they can start growing until they are ready to present a bigger project. So if you present a small poster and they have to present small bits at first, and then they learn more about it. Rubrics. Rubrics is basically what Andre is asking about rubrics. Rubrics is basically the criteria that you need, that you're going to use to grade that piece of evidence. So, for example, when you are, I'm an examiner. This is the other hat that I wear. I'm an international nations examiner. When you're examining for an international examination, like for example Cambridge Assessment English, you have very specific criteria of what each student is expected to produce for to be considered, for example, an A, a B, or a C. So these are the rubrics, or this is basically the criteria. And sometimes you have to build it, sometimes you follow pre-established rubrics. So if you have more than 200 students, Sandra, whatever you do with 200 students is going to be hard. Correcting a test, 200 tests, is also hard. It's easier to use rubrics than it is to correct tests, I tell you. But rubrics will be like, for example, you have statements that will describe a certain grade. So, for example, the student uses the vocabulary presented in the unit, and that will give them a lot, or partially, or doesn't use, and that will give them 2, 1, or 0 points. Okay, and because you have the criteria very well established and pre-established, it is much easier to use rubrics than it is to correct a test. It is, I can tell you that. Okay. Any other questions, my friends? If you go to that chat, let me write it here. I'm going to write on the it's a funny, I put on the chat. I hope somebody puts it up, that the link I gave you is for the GRADE network, GRAIDE, the GRADE network. That website I gave you is very useful. It will give you very clear ideas on how to use rubrics to assess, let's say, more real tasks. It's very interesting. Okay. Maida, you've been trying rubrics? Maida saying that she's been trying some myself, but sometimes it's very time and energy consuming. Are you talking about rubrics? If you work as a group of teachers, people, if you work with teachers and you produce a set of rubrics for example, for compositions and for video assignments or for a presentation, and these are there ready for you, it's not time consuming, and it's there and it's ready, and you go and you pick it and you go and use it. It's going to be much faster and much easier than correcting 200 tests, I can guarantee you. The first time I used rubrics, like let's say 20 years ago, it was mind-blowing, because suddenly I didn't have to invent what's the difference between a 14 and a 16, and it was there, it was clear, it was easy. And then my grade and the teacher next door, we had the same consistency. You see, it was nice and easy, and they wouldn't say, Lueli is nicer than Joãozinho. Okay, so it was much it's much nicer to use something that is consistent and unbiased and clear. So this is the way forward for you if you want to convince, for example, your school and parents that something other than tests is possible. Okay. People, your next talk is with Susan Howden. You cannot miss it. Susan is an inspiration. So please hang on and stay on to listen to Susan. I have contributed with Susan in a few projects. She is amazing, and you're going to have a wonderful time with her. I would like to thank you for being here with me. It was a pleasure. Okay?
Muito obrigado, Lueli, por tudo, viu?
Thank you.
Muito obrigado.